are you? Well, my name is Diego. I'm from Brazil, and I'm here to take you on a little trip. Let's go venturing Brasilicom Valleys. If I had a remote control like this one, I could do like that, 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 click. Okay. Do I have to leave it? Is it the click or the remote control? Both. All right, I feel safer. Well, I hope in this little trip you will discover how Brazil takes off, and so come together, do all this risky stuff like those, like that. And yes, that was me. Not on the cover of the magazine, because that's JC in Rio. There are some parallels between jumping from airplanes and venturing sometimes. This presentation will be actually easy. I'm not giving you a lot of numbers to keep track. It's just to tell you what's going on. And starting by what we do, we have this website, which was the first website that took care of a special community that only appeared on the surface of society when there was a huge moment of acquisition or development of a very big new product. We started looking at them every day. You can read it, because it's in English too. It started when, it started by the validation. Have you heard the word already? In the startup industry, it's like entrepreneurs discover if their customers will prefer this or that. It's like one of our clients to be had the need, and well, it's written. He wanted to invest in Brazilian startups, but there was no directory. So he created one. Now I have the pleasure of having also Bob as a partner. You may have listened to him already here. When I say valleys, it's not specifically west, north, or physical, geographical. It's more like zones, movements, or if someone is a coder here, developer, they would say what flows when you are into that optimal experience. Many people believe that Silicon Valley is the only place in the world where such things happen, and which is not true, though places don't need to be one like the other. And you may already see that many things are happening at once in Brazil. It's not that now that piece that was broken is being corrected. No, we are having better infrastructure, better politics, you could say. Even politicians, sometimes. You have, now people know what entrepreneur means or is related to, because some years ago you didn't know, so how could you become one? It was not a role model. It was like, you're going to be a nice employee at a huge international corporation. We have a lot of different players, so to say, who are getting together and doing more of those logical spaces. Like if you take a startup competition, it's not just the contest, but the context. It's like you take universities preparing the students, connecting to the industry professionals who will read the submissions, who will listen to the presentations and evaluate and make questions and say, this one is good to go, or guy, you'd better do it like this or like that, or did you think about this? Did you think about that? Now also we don't need to keep begging for someone from outside or inside to give us some money, because we wouldn't prefer to have a tough job and do our nice projects when we should be sleeping. It's like we are, of course, with some government support, but peer-to-peer is something that we are taking to many levels. I've heard that you've been doing this also in Spain and Europe in general, I believe. Tendencies, trends are not localized anymore, though you can say it's a little bit different here or there, but it's like a huge cloud from a volcano community, and we are part of that. Like, we are here. We have 4 Brazilian startups between the 20 finalists in the Open Talent, and we always have Brazilians as finalists in many competitions. We have, like, our first big hero in our field, which is Romero, and of course his partners, who call the attention of everyone. Like, this is not kids playing video game or tweeting or renting communities online. It's really something that does business, not only for its own sake, but for everybody else. Also, we have some gaps, so to say, and we need to become a little better on these points, but we are already walking. We don't wait. Sometimes we travel, like, that's why Dave McClure was written there. He said, Silicon Valley, you don't need to go there. You need to do it here. Or how would you suppose someone would give you money if you don't know what's going on in your market, if you cannot deal with it? How do you think you're going to do it there, where they are doing it for ages, and no, I'm going global first? Like, it's like a strategy for going social, viral on the web. If it's not cool for one person, he won't share it. So social is first personal. Of course, if you could help on one of these points, you are pretty welcome. We are based in São Paulo, but there are many places you could visit and talk to many people. This point of going global is very important, and that's why we need to connect to others who are close to us or have some similarities. Like, Brazil is surrounded by countries that speak Spanish, but we don't speak Spanish as much as English. It would be very easier if we were a bigger community and connecting to Europe. Also, we don't need to learn French because we already could have the language of our neighbors. It's not that thing in particular, but it makes sense. Or if it doesn't, then make a question later. Zeitgeist is another language, but okay. Not to mention 2 big events that are actually polemics, because everybody wants to build stuff with bricks, and it's not going that fast. I'm a journalist, I have to say, but many people believe it's going to happen. But most interesting is when you look at, like, restaurants, hotels, like restaurants in not big centers as São Paulo. They are investing tons on training. Like, their employees, or whatever word, collaborators, partners, are becoming better workers and probably better persons because of that. And they are betting it as entrepreneurs, not because the government is supporting them to do such training. So it's amazing. It's not the game itself. It's because we are going to, like, put some new order into the house. because it's come the point. We now have some hope because I'm a little bit young. And I myself didn't see like hard recession or bad economic times like the worst ones. At least I was not economically active. So we don't have those wounds open. It's like we are children who learn how to hack an iPhone when we are 13. Like there is a Brazilian who did it first. Who is going to tell him what can and what cannot be done? And how will you, as a parent or as a teacher, help him? Or evaluate him? Or give him a job? No, that's enough for him. He's young. So, come on. How all this is a new mindset. And click. Oh. This is stuff I had already mentioned. This is the time, I believe, for everyone. We are discovering that we cannot take the same management of big corporations the same way and try to force it into our startups. There are some things that we could do a little bit different. Of course, when we become bigger, we need to become more compliant and governance, and it all makes sense, it is good, but you don't start like that, so you have to find your next step. It feels like always this way. So what's my next slide? It's like that. Who has heard of social businesses? Could raise your hand. Social business, for example. Yeah, some people do. One guy wrote to me, said, I have a social business. You can click and share. Okay, it is right, but it's wrong, but it's wrong, but it's right, but it's actual. The principle is there, but instead of just asking people to say how good your content is or your product, or ask them to give me ideas, give me ideas, give me ideas, what would you do, what would be better, it's like, why don't you really go listen, go watch? Because when there are hard times, when there are needs, it means there are things to be done. And I used to see a lot of friends of mine who lived in university with a dream and no job. And it's hard because now I know how to ask them, so while you were at the university or at your post-graduation, at your MNOP, why didn't you pay attention to what's around you? Like really, not studying benchmarks and trying just to copy. Of course you can repeat what's being well done. But if you don't know what's going wrong, you don't know the processes, and this is true for big corporations, and also when you want to start, you need to know who has this and makes what with this, and gives it to whom, who will do what. So where is the track broken, or where can you add value? I mean, really make things better for other people. And this is pretty much what I see as a social business. So it could be a platform that does these social things of Web 2, but it's more like that. How do you really go into people's lives? We are starting to become a community of startups, entrepreneurs, innovators, because somewhat we share part of these ideas. Not that every startup needs to be a social business, no, but the mindset and the moment all point. You know, you won't be the next cheapest retailer. So, I didn't want to give you a lot of details about everything, but I would like to hear some questions or some tips. Like now, like from you, like for real.
I have a question a bit to break the ice. So You said you're a journalist, you're tracking a lot of startups in Brazil, and the question has two parts. What kind of services, online services, you see are not being developed inside Brazil by startups and could be an opportunity for the companies present here? And on the other side, what kind of things you saw developed in Brazil you could see could have a great opportunity going abroad and running their company abroad and selling their services, for example, here in Spain?
First question is really challenging because if you take, for example, daily deals, coupons, social commerce, you would say it's been done enough already. When it started in Brazil, in a few months, like from March to December, there were already 1,000 Brazilian services doing this. Some had some differences, but now there are more than 2,000. And it's like, you can find differences. There are ones that look into unexplored niches. Sometimes they are afraid of the innovation in the business model because some important, influent guys tell them not to do so, because if the most difficult is to take €1 from someone's pocket, so why make it difficult for him to understand how to do that? But people are reinventing it, and these ones are doing better. I don't know if this is a straight answer. I don't know what's not done, but there are different things in Madrid and in Brazil. Like, we still stand in a line to buy the ticket for the subway. I wouldn't like it forever. I prefer here. Why don't they do that? I don't know. We have a sophisticated banking system. We have machines that could do that. I don't know why. It's cultural. It's just one example. And the second question, would you repeat it for me, please?
Yeah, and the second thing is, what things are being done by startups in Brazil that you think could have startups that are being done, things done by startups inside Brazil that yet haven't come out, and you think that they could have a great opportunity globally?
Wow. There is a web service that I like a lot that was started by a guy who was like in his 16s, 17s, which is, let's use metaphors and talk about benchmarks. I can make these exceptions. It's like SlideShare, but for books. So it's a device, it's a reader, and it's also a community of content, and it's also, you can sell books also, and they get like small revenue for that. But the fact is, he did think a lot about it. It's not only the product or the reader, it's not only the community talking about the content, and it's not just the store selling someone else, but the guy could show me in arrows, in diagrams, how the industry traditionally works, like with 6 or 7, say, steps that are different players, different roles that people saw they could add value and capture value from. But this is what makes it heavy and not as profitable as they would like or sustainable. So why keep ignoring it or trying to make it not so hype on the internet? Like, people will use it, so they took these 6, 7 steps and they do this like in 3. It's like the famous disruption thing. They're not being so profitable because, of course, who here reads one full book each week? So think about a huge country with many, many millions of people, and just change a little bit the question, how many of them will write books each week or each month? Okay, you see. But then again, you have a different concept of what is a book. Maybe it is just a chapter. So you could launch it in tiny bits, and then you could make your social thing and ask people to co-direct your script to see where the next chapter goes. I like them a lot, though they don't have many content in other languages, but they do have partnerships in some Oriental Europe, in some place that I don't recall now. They are very, very nice. It's one thing. This is the first example that it came to me because I use it, I can say.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello.
Diego. So my question is, after the presentation of the Brazilian representatives, I have no doubt that the startup scene is on fire in Brazil and that there are huge opportunities in the Brazilian market.
So you could be a bomber?
However, I heard also that for foreign entrepreneurs or startups from other countries, it's not easy to enter to the Brazilian market. So my question is, what your advice will be for a startup interested in entering into the Brazilian market?
Okay. As I'm from Brazil, I don't have a difficulty in going to it. But some people from other countries tell me sometimes that it's harder to open companies and even harder to shut down companies. It takes more time, more money. Maybe there's a little bit of these. On the other side, we are early adopters and we are heavy users of everything that people create on other countries. So there's nothing really different on what we do. Like, we are people that wake up and go to places to work or to have fun and to eat and to read, and we study and we do everything else. I don't know what the mystery is. Sometimes it's cultural. Brazil is very rich on that side. Like, we are known for not being like the toughest people, but more like warm and funny. Sometimes easy, but go live in São Paulo to see, or in somewhere else and be an entrepreneur to see how easygoing that is. Like sometimes you are not successful if you just push it, like, take my new remote control, it's wonderful. Or, you know, maybe people won't accept it because they don't feel connected to it. Not everybody believes in this thing of branding. They want the cheapest. But again, is it cheapest if you are bringing it to Brazil from other country? Importation tax, for example, is not easy. Fact is, we are not anymore just a cheap labor place, because by being that, we gained new responsibilities of understanding how the business goes, and so yeah, we've been learning. And regional differences is one thing too. Like, you don't sell in São Paulo like in Northeast or somewhere else. It depends on what it is, you know. Thank you. Is it over? Thanks for your attention. Will you fly high with us?